Hey guys, how's it going? This is part 3 of the Service Bulletin 36. Part 1 on this particular series was inspecting and discovering what we had as far as cracks and all that. This stabilizer did in fact have cracks. This is an RV3B Bravo aircraft. Episode 2 is replacing the spars, so we've done that. We've got them all lined up. You might go back if any of you folks have to change spars out. I'd highly recommend going and looking at episode 2. This is going to be pretty much strictly now putting Service Bulletin 36 into place. So we're going to go back to the instructions, which we talked about earlier, and where we got slowed up on the episode number 1 was evaluating the spar. That was step 3. Step 4 through 17 are only applicable to the RV3. Now the other aircraft, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever, those aircraft are 4, 6, 7. Those aircraft are spread out on the bulletin, and you're just going to have to go into your area. For us, the RV3, we have steps 4 through 17. So step 4, what they tell you to do is, assuming all you have is a crack and it's repairable, then you're just going to peel, and if you go back to my first episode, we're just going to peel a bit of the skin back, put the doubler on, and go. Great. However, as cracked as this was, this spar was pretty well, it cracked in the radius, we had to get rid of it. So we're putting new spar in. If you have a cracked spar, that is beyond limits and that the crack goes into the radius, I would highly recommend you guys change out both spars. Reason is to try and go replace one spar in situ or whatever, you're gonna have to take the spar out anyway. Spar assembly, it's just a whole lot easier. If you're in for a penny, in for a pound, change out both of them. Now you've got zero fatigue damage on both of them. It's not that hard to do. Doing 2 of them is probably another, just drilling a bunch of rivets out, not that hard to do. So personally, I would recommend doing that. So that was step 4, is drill the rivets out. Step 5, fabricate a bent doubler. In the kit that you get from Vans, they supply you with a bent doubler, and you can see I've got one here kind of in place, but they do supply a bent doubler. This is too long in that it's plenty long. It's about 12 inches long, so we're going to talk about that. And what we're going to do is we're going to get that in place here, and we're going to get it as snug as possible, and then we're going to take some measurements. So there's a couple things going on. So fabricate a bent doubler. If you don't have, or if you have a home-built spar that is not that accurate, Vans does include in the kit 40 thousandths of material. You can make your own. So there you go for that. So that's cool. Step 5 is fabricate a doubler if you have to. Look at the figures. Step 6 is fabricate outboard hinges out of 061 or 063 steel. We did get the steel with the repair kit, so we've got we have our hinges bent, and they're just rough cut right now. So we've got that done. Step 6, step 7 is interesting. It says if cracks are present, fabricate a repair doubler or trim a 718. Now what they say here is where the outboard hinges were, if there's no crack, then you don't need this repair doubler on the back. If there's no crack, just put new hinges on. Again, if there's no crack, pretty much all this repair is going to be is putting the nest doubler in. But I talked to Vans about this, and they said, hey, you know what? It's kind of belt and braces, so we're putting this in. They said it doesn't have to be there. If you have cracks present, you must put a doubler plate on. If you don't, you don't have to put it on. We looked at it. We're putting a nest doubler on one side. This will just give you better bearing load, also for twisting and torsion and whatnot. Talked to the owner, and he was up for it. This aircraft is going to be used for acro and that kind of stuff. So it's a good thing, so to speak. Doesn't hurt to put a little more beef in there. On that point, I've had some folks say, man, you know, this thing was a real crappy design, blah, 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 blah. Not really. when Dick designed these aircraft, these were going to be sport aircraft. He didn't anticipate that there would be formation groups. He didn't anticipate people would be doing the acro they're doing. He didn't anticipate it was, and this is back in the 3 days, that there was going to be such a following. So, yeah, the RV3 is kind of the production version 1.0. You had some predecessors, but the RV3 is really the prototypical example of the van's design, and it wasn't built for that kind of, let's call it, abuse and use, whether it's on grass fields, balance issues, and or acro. So this is a good thing. The one thing I have asked the owner is to go back to vans and see if they've rolled the intent of SB00036 into the engineering drawing 15 for the RV3. I don't know if they've done that yet. I certainly hope so. If anyone's building an RV3, going to build an RV3, repairing an RV3, or any of the other family, I hope that van has at least rolled those drawings. So that's what's going on there. So we've got a nest doubler. Fabricate the outboard hinge bracket, step 6. Step 7, we are going to, we don't have cracks present because we have brand new spars, but we're going to use this. Clamp the nested doubler in the appropriate location. Match drill. Now here's a tricky wicket. So we're going to match drill where our outboard hinge was. You're not going to really be able to see it, but it's right here in this area here. Our original hinges only had 2 rivets on each fitting. Only had 2 rivets on each fitting. So what we're going to be doing is the legs on our new hinges are going to be extending, and we're going to be adding additional rivet holes. We're going to have 4 rivet holes on that. And there's a figure in the book for that. So that's going to be added on. We're going to have the backup doubler that's going to marry up to it. That'll be good. But there's a couple things going on. One is they want at least 3 rivets on either side of the repair. Cool, no problem. So what you'll do is you'll come up here and you look at that, and we look at ours, and we look at it and we say, great, we're going to cut the nest doubler. It's like, whoa. So right now that measures 6.5 inches ish. Step the doubler must be at least 7 inches. So this step 9 is real important for the RV3s. The doubler should capture at least 6 rivets from the skin and rear spar in each flange. So we've got 3 on either side of the hinges. The doubler must be at least 7 inches in length. So now, because of that, we're going to get into, we'll end up picking up an additional rivet, either inboard or outboard. Probably, I'm thinking we may go inboard, pick up 1 rivet. So it'll be a little bit asymmetrical, but we're getting our minimum of 6 rivets, 3 on either side for each flange, and then also the 7-inch length. So don't forget that 7-inch length for our aircraft anyway. Match drill holes in the hinge brackets, place new hinge, clamp, blah, 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 blah. So that's what we're getting ready to do now. Anyway, here we go. We're going to get ready for our nest doubler, get that matched up. I think what I'm going to do is put you on time lapse while I'm canoodling with this, and we'll be back. Okay, we've got the flanges all drilled. I just went 3 on the outboard side of the hinge and 4 on the inboard side. So we're pretty well set there. What I'm going to do now, and then the other thing I had to do is strike off this nest doubler sits proud of the spar itself. So I struck off with my scratch awl, and we'll take that down with the sander to clean that up and get that all nice and smooth so it's flush. So that's a thing. And then I think what I'm going to do is, next thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to drill my hinges, get my hinge blanks drilled, and then I can come back to those later. But at least while it's all stuck together, I can do that. I think I'll put some plecos back in. I just took them out, but I'll put them back in. So anyway, follow along on that. So we're going to do we're going to get the hinges set, and then we're also going to drill the additional holes for the new hinge. So new hinges. So here we go. Okay, here's a real life deal, stuff you're going to bump into. So we measured per the drawing, our drawing number 15 for the 3. I don't know what it is on the other platforms. is we need to have 19.5 inches between hinge centers. So easy peasy. We measured this one. I just clicked on everything in place in the old holes, confirmed it on the old spar. This one is measuring 19 and 5/8. Okay, so I've got a couple decisions to do. I'll just move this hinge to 19 and a half. Great. Except it may not fit our elevator anymore. So I've got the owner. He's about 50 miles away. We've got the owner measuring the elevator. So we're going to end up having to move this 1/8 of an inch just to marry up. Home built airplane. That is what it is. 1/8 of an inch is no big deal. But what I can do in the meantime is I can at least trim my nest doublers to length. I can't really set up my hole pattern for my, I can't really do my drilling and set up my hole pattern for my hinges yet. Humph. But I can at least start getting that done. The other side measures at 19 and a half book, which is great. Except I want to make sure that that is what the other elevator is. So the owner's going out and measuring all that stuff. So we have a little bit of a kerfluffle here, but you're going to run into that. So don't sweat it. If you didn't build the plane, or even if you did build the plane, you're going to have stuff like that. So right now we're going to take this out and get it cut to length, and then take a little bit of a pause. So no pause to you, but I'm going to do that. So I'll do a little time lapse getting this out and cutting it up and all that. So anyway, see you soon. Okay guys, we're about done for a little while. We've got to wait for the owner to get back with us on the elevator. So he's going to bring the elevators back to the shop here. So we match drilled, and I did a little had a little problem with the time lapse. So hopefully you might see a little continuity issue. Long story short, we have the nest doubler trimmed to length for both sides. We have not cut the relief in it. We'll show you that here, and on that. That's another figure that we're going to have to go get into, but we haven't done that yet. That's figure 5. But we're going to have to do that. We can't do that until we know where our hinges are. Again, we've got to figure all that out. So anyway, we've got the nest doubler in, and then what we also did is opted for putting the outer 718B doubler on. So we've got the 316 nest doubler in, and then the 718 outer piece on. We put that on. It's just kind of like I said, belt and suspenders on that. So as far as going back to steps, we did the step 9, which is drilling all these drilling the doubler common rivet holes to the skin, and also making sure it's 7 inches long and all that, making sure we're picking up 3 on each side. We're actually picking up 3 on one side, 4 on another. Remove the spar, or remove the deal, clamp the repair doubler on the forward side, get the hinge, and then if if cracks are evident, put this on. We don't have any. We're putting this on. If you had cracks on your spar, you would put this piece on. Now the piece comes with parallel sides, but you're going to actually have to trim it to the shape of the back of the spar and make sure you clear your skins. So this does require trimming to the contour inner mold line of your spar flanges. So that's the thing. Drill the holes common to the hinge brackets. We're kind of stuck there on step number 13. We're trying to get to step 17, but we're kind of stuck on that right now. What we can do is we can probably go and do our we can take our hinges that we're going to be putting in and get them fit. Now on these aluminum hinges, they can nest right into the flange because these are radiused on the bottom. On our new hinges, they have to be clear of the flange, so they'll be tangential, clear on, and they can only be on the flat area of your deal. So you'll find that if you take aluminum ones out, you'll probably find that your steel ones that you're putting back in are going to be a little bit narrower. So just make sure you've got good ED there and all that. So that's what we're doing there. That's what's going on. Anyway, back in a flash. Okay guys, another day, another shirt. So what we've done is we talked with the owner. The owner, when we left off, the owner, well, we had a discrepancy in the dimensions here. So we have on this horizontal stabilizer between hinge, the inboard hinge, not the center hinge, but the inboard hinge and outboard hinge on the elevator. Per the drawing, sheet 15 is supposed to be 19.5 inches, center to center. Great. On the right side, it's 19.5 inches. On the left side, it's 19 5/8 inches. So I'm getting ready to drill this thing. I thought, well, you know what I can do is I can just make it 19.5 inches. Everything will be perfect per blueprint. We'll get this thing back to blueprint. Good news. The bad news is, if I was to do that, his elevators wouldn't fit. Well, the one elevator wouldn't fit. So we're basically, and it's just the variability of a kit-built aircraft. So on the left-hand one, I've got this spun around. On the left-hand one, we made it 19 5/8, and he double-checked his equipment, his elevators at his shop. So that'll be dial-in perfect, and then the other side be 19.5. So we're getting ready to do that. I've got the steel replacement. We made steel replacements off of the 4130 plate 063. We've got those bent up to 90 degrees. We have them finished out so that they can fit inside of the channel doubler and all that, because it's a little bit smaller than the space that the aluminum hinges originally had. It's got more foot on it, so we can put those 2 extra rivets on. So this, when we get done with it, will be the latest greatest, with 4 rivets on each hinge attaching it to the Spar. Cool. So anyway, we're getting ready to do that. I'll put you on time lapse for that. So anyway, I've got one already done in. I've got the inboard already just drilled, and all it is just laying it in there. We have that nest doubler already set in there. I think the nest doubler is the 316. So we've got that set. We talked with the factory about putting the, oh, just dropped it, I'll bring it back. We've talked to the factory about putting the 718 doubler on the back. They said, well, you can, you can't, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. You don't need it, you don't have to do it. But we figured, hey, we have a brand new Spar, that'll keep anything from trying to start to crack. And we'll probably also put this, we'll probably shoot this all in wet with PRC to keep any oils and that kind of stuff. Again, they're running smoke oil, doing aerobatics on this, so that'll keep any fretting from occurring. So when we get to that point. So anyway, we've got the other hinge we're going to drill. We're going to get the other rivets for the outboard parts of these hinges, get those drilled, and this will be ready to go. Then we're going to have to take these and trim the actual hinges to shape, so that get rid of the excess material. And then we're also going to have to put the cutouts in the nest doubler. And that's one thing I got to say. Anybody knows me, I'm not an acolyte of Vans. It's great. I'm absolutely neutral on the whole thing. I think it's great. They've got a huge amount of aircraft complete. However, this bulletin in a couple attributes really kind of sucks. The one thing that they really missed was the doubler, the nest doubler, and I'll show you a picture of it. How to trim the nest doubler. They don't give dimensions on the trim and whatnot. They just kind of have a cartoon of it, which is kind of disappointing, because that whole drawing was made on CAD. They could have easily dimensioned it, just to give some of the radiuses and that kind of stuff. So that's figure 12, and we're going to just have to kind of John Wayne it and make it look kind of close to what the drawing is as far as that intent. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Shouldn't be any big deal. So anyway, let's get to it. We're going to finish drilling the other hinge, the other steel hinge, and then we'll get the backing plate, the 718 drilled to it, and then this will all come apart and we'll start getting on going with that. So the beat goes on. Okay, I've got the 2 steel hinges in place, got those set up. I actually used for a spacer supposed to be 7/16. I use the heads of 2 1/4-inch bolts, which was 7/16 hex on it, so I use that for a spacer. And these actually have to bump these just a little bit to get them perfectly 90, but they're in place. They are drilled. I added the 2 extra holes on either side. So what we're going to do is, the only thing I've got left to do on this is to drill the 7/18 holes for the 7/18 doubler. Again, it's just extra safe. Beef up the area that much more. Shouldn't have a problem probably ever again with this thing. So it'll make everybody feel a whole lot better. So that's a good thing. And we're just getting this. Get these guys all in here. We've got that set in place. It's been trimmed to the outer mold line. So now we can use the steel hinges as a drill guide for those extra rivet holes. On some of your aircraft, you're already going to have these. This is a, since the aircraft was built, this is an ad. So. Okay, everything's set up. So what we're going to do now, we have all our drilling, basically all our drilling done. We have our drilling on the flanges done. We have the drilling on the hinges done. The only thing really left to do now is I'm going to disassemble. I'm going to trim out per figure 5, I think it was, figure 12. Figure 12 and figure, what was the other one? Was it 5? Figure 5, yep. So per figure 5 and figure 12, we're going to get the 3/16 doubler all trimmed out, and I'll just come back. That's just going to be cutting and trimming and all that. What I may do is throw some stills in, whatnot. Anyway, I'll go over to the bandsaw, work on that, and then get it all polished up. Get that trimmed, and then also trim the hinges themselves. Got to trim them down like the original hinges were. Right now they're just square, so we're going to be trimming those. So again, no big deal. We've got to trim them to a triangle shape and also locate the bolt hole. So we'll be doing that here. Pretty simple to do. In fact, what I'll probably do is I may do a fast forward, show you how we're doing the bolt hole, then we'll move from there. So here we go. Okay, I've got this thing kind of cleat-coed together. I've got the new steel hinge cleat-coed together per, I could just have a mess of cleat-coat clamps and cleat-coats, but I took the old hinge, and then per your figure 7, what we did is we just raised, because we've got the 1 doubler in here, because we have the 3/16 nest doubler in here, it raises this hinge up 40 thousandths. So what we do is we take, just have a plate on the bottom here, we take the old hinge, clamp it to that, and we take the new hinge with a piece of 40 right here. That raises up the hinge itself to simulate this, and then all we do is drill this, and that will take care of the center. Now I'm not going to do both of them because I want to make sure that we're not this way. So what I'll do is, once I get the pilot hole drilled, I'll clamp everything in place and then come back with my 12-inch and just get a nice line bore on it. So I'm only going to do the inboards on either way. That's the way I'm doing it. So follow along. Here we go. Back to time lapse. Okay, that's pretty simple. All it is just kind of line board it. So now I've got my hinge centers done. I can now develop the geometry for the hinges. Back to, let's see what that is. That would be figure 13-ish. And get that kind of nailed down. And then what we can do. Well, so we'll get those set up. We've already got the base of those done. So as far as we've got to develop the 316 shape, those cutouts per figure 5, and then develop these hinges per what we're given, and then we're pretty much going to start assembling and dimpling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the shop, trim those to size, and then I'll show you what I do when I get back. So other side, we'll drill it the exact same way. No big deal. Pretty simple stuff. Just take your time, and it's really not that big a deal. So works out real easy. Okay, we've got both sides all drilled up to size. We just came back, we did the other end just as we did that end. So we've got to drill this up to, we've got to take these and trim these plates and all that. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all this stuff up to full size. So all my attaching rivets for the hinges to the spar will be brought up to 1/8 inch. I'm going to bring my hinge pins, hinge bolts up to full dimension on those, get those set up. Everything else is number 40s, all number 3 stuff here. These are already up at 1/8 inch, number 30 all the way along. So all I'm going to do now is get these up to size and then trim the parts. So I think this is a pretty good time to break. I've also got to strip some stuff and whatnot, so I'll be alodining and priming this. So next time you come back, you'll probably see these parts in primer. I got to strip all that beautiful red paint off of this thing, so because there's no way we'd be able to match it in. Real quick, like, share, subscribe, and notify. Please, if you would, comment. Good, bad, or indifferent. Throw some comments down there. We're trying to do you guys, help you out on this kind of stuff and bring more of this kind of content to you. So please like, share, subscribe. We've got the Patreon going. We've got other projects on our video YouTube channel. So if there's other stuff you're interested in, or if there's stuff you want to see, please leave a note, leave a comment below and all that. So hopefully we get this little RV back flying again as soon as we can. Great little airplane. Great little airplane. So anyway, like I said, like, share, subscribe, notify. Go fly yourself. Hanger Rats out.